Ali Wong. It's great to see you, Ali. And the amazing thing that you were just telling me is this is your first time back on the road since the special.
Yeah, this is my very first run of shows that I've done to travel on the road with.
So how long ago did you shoot the special?
I shot it last September.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. So it's been taking this long before you could see are people showing up because of the special?
Yeah, the special premiered a month ago, I think. And I didn't know how it performed because Netflix doesn't release their metrics. They're really secretive about it. But this run of shows in DC is like the first time anything has ever sold out. I mean, clubs used to have to trick people to come see me. They have to have people on the street barking at people with flyers and be like, you'll get a free hand job and 2 drinks if you come in.
By the way, I'd go to that show.
Yeah.
I really would.
So it's so crazy. It's very surreal for me that all these people came, strangers, in DC on another coast to see me. It's very weird. And it's also the first time where I've experienced people coming with expectation, because they think, and then I worry that they're gonna go home and be like, oh, it's not as good. She's not pregnant anymore. She performs in her pajamas. It's not the same. So but it's and I used to have to go up on stage and no one knew who I was, so I'd have to earn their respect.
Yeah.
And it's such a different energy now to have people already be on board.
Yeah.
But I know it's great. But it's also it's very different.
Well, it's just a new wave to catch in your career. At certain points of your career, it feels like this is what comedy is. Then you break through. At first you're an open micer, and then you move up until you're featured, and then finally, okay, I'm the headliner. But once you make a special, and I mean, I know I don't want to put any pressure on you.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
But I sat there watching this thing and I'm like, okay, this is going good. This is going good. And then I'm like, holy shit, this is one of the best things I've ever seen.
Oh, man.
I'm not kidding. I think it's one of those kind of specials that people are going to look back from years from now, the way they did. There's so many specials that get shot, but there's only so many that feel like they're a whole new way of doing comedy.
Yeah, I didn't want to do just 60 minutes of my best jokes. I really wanted to tell a story because I think that's a big part of what makes a special, and I wanted my special to be special. I didn't just want to do a bunch of 6-minute late night sets string together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that people have responded to it, and I don't know. I mean, we'll just see how it goes as I keep going on the road. That's really the only way for me to tell how well it has done. So,
but to go out and do this, and you were, what were you, 7.5?
I was 7.5 months pregnant. When
7.5 months pregnant, and you're wearing this tight little form-fitting dress.
Yes.
And then it gets, I think you waited 45 minutes before you bring up being pregnant.
Yeah.
And it is such a physical set. You're moving around, you're talking about sex, you're acting out things, and you're just like, I'm watching this, I'm like, my mind is blown.
Yeah.
That she's going to these spots while, being pregnant. Because over the course of my lifetime, I do remember when women would just wear a big giant shirt with a giant bow on the front of it to hide the fact that they were, expecting. There was nervousness about it. And you just came out there like a badass for an hour.
I mean, I guess I took a lot of influence from musicians I had seen perform pregnant. I saw Alicia Keys. It blew my mind when she did this tribute to Prince, and she sang that song "Adore," which is a really passionate song. It's like you.
Yeah.
And she's it's not a lot of words. It's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And she just gets up on the piano, is climbing and kicking her shoes off, and she all pregnant. And I was and Prince was in the audience, and he's grabbing his friend's arm, and he's looking around, and it's it was so kind of funny.
Yeah.
And at the same time, really awesome.
Yeah.
But it was also kind of funny to see her all pregnant, like kicking with her bare feet, climbing. And I was like, oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah.
And I was really inspired by that because she wasn't trying to really hide her pregnancy at all. And I mean, I think a lot of women look really cute when they're pregnant. And they're also pretty funny when they're pregnant too. So I wore that tight dress on purpose because a lot of times people couldn't tell that I was pregnant because I didn't gain that much weight at that point. So yeah.
But also, I think being pregnant, it also brought in like this lioness vibe.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this thing that there's a certain ferociousness that I'm doing this thing, I'm changing, I'm transforming. I mean, when you think about it, there's kind of a werewolf angle to being pregnant.
Yeah. Well, because you have more. My lasered off mustache came back in full effect, actually. So the werewolf metaphor is quite appropriate. Like there was there was hair coming out of crazy places. I had like dark spots on my hands because all this crazy shit goes down with your body that nobody tells you about. Like I didn't experience this, but a lot of pregnant women get hemorrhoids because like the baby's putting all this pressure on your ass. So then you get like all these butt flaps. Really? Okay, I know you weren't. This is not where you were going.
No. This is exactly what I had in mind.
But like all this crazy stuff happens to your body. So then you're like, you know what? I don't give a fuck anymore about, I'm not like during my late night sets in the past when I had performed on like the Tonight Show, I was so worried about what I was going to wear. It consumed me. Like I have to find something with color that I'm comfortable in. And it was so stressful. And for my special, I was like, I don't give a fuck what I look like. Because this, like, my body is changing every day. Shit, all sorts of nasty shit is happening. And I'm just proud of myself if I make it up there and can stay there for like an hour. So, and that was really liberating to not care about what I look like. And I think that's where all the ferocity. Yeah. Is that a word?
No, I think it works, right?
That's where the ferociousness comes from, is not care, because as a woman you care. It's not the same with male comics. Like male comics I don't think they worry as much about what they're going to wear, what they look like, how they're going to do their hair. Like, I mean, Louis C.K. definitely does not have to worry about what, if he's going to do a braid, if he's going to do a French braid or like up or down, a soft beachy look. It's like, he doesn't have to care about that.
But wouldn't it be sad if he does?
Then we don't. Be really sad.
He's like,
if he actually put a lot of effort into it.
Like right before he goes out, do I look okay?
Yeah, so it was so liberating to not care about that stuff and to just have that layer be shed, I think was really, really helpful.
See, that's why I think it was kind of a breakthrough, because you see that kind of power that came from where you were at that exact point of life, and the fact that it wasn't planned, and even all your material wasn't planned around it. You were going in so many different directions. And then you were saying, that you're not a feminist, but I'm thinking to myself, there could be, everything that you're doing physically is actually the thing that they've been trying to push since the beginning, that a woman can get up and do this thing in the way that she wants to do it.
And that a woman doesn't have to hide when she's pregnant, or that pregnancy doesn't mean the end, that it could very much be the beginning of your career, which has so far been very much true for me, and I did that on purpose, because when I wanted to have a kid, and I had a conversation with Chris Rock about it, and I was like, I'm really worried about being married and having a kid affecting my career and ending my career, because there wasn't a precedent for like a mainstream. There wasn't many precedents, that I could think of for other female comics who were married and pregnant and successful at the level that maybe like Chris Rock was. Yeah. And he said to me, he was like, you know what, Ali, I think that if you get married and pregnant and have a kid, I think you're going to have an actual shot at being famous. And he was like, I'm talking about the kind of famous where people's mothers know who you are.
Yeah.
A household name.
Yeah.
Because most of America is married and has kids. And if you are married and have kids, you'll be able to relate to people who are married and have kids. And so now, I mean, and that's when like the paradigm kind of shifted for me. And I was like, oh, like I can, like, this doesn't have to be like a you know, a handicap, and being in married and having a baby can actually be something that I can use to like hopefully catapult me, you know. And that's not why I got married and had a kid.
It's starting to sound that way.
Yeah. but that really, like, you know, then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna talk about this and I'm gonna do it, and and then, you know, and so many like moms have connected to me now and responded to me, and now I'm so much more excited about the material I'm doing after Baby Cobra, because now it's all about like new motherhood, and I'm like connecting to this whole population of America who I feel like, you know, I wouldn't have been able to connect to before.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Well, that is true, but it's also true, like you said, a lot of people will get pregnant and go, oh my God, the baby's here, I'm going to take off 14, 15 years.
Yeah.
And even, you know, even rock stars have done that. Patti Smith walked away and then 20 years later came back and said, okay, I'm picking it back up again. And you kind of bring up in the special that no man has ever done that in history. Like, no man ever worries about going on the road.
No.
You know?
And it's like, you know, I'll see these other male comics who had a kid around the same time as me. And you know, I just started going up more in Los Angeles, and I was like, have you been going on the road? And they were like, oh yeah, like every weekend. And they were like, you know, I have to make money.
Yeah.
For the kid. And I'm like, how nice.
Yeah.
That you get to be a hero.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
How nice that you get to be like the warrior
right.
on the road.
Yeah.
But like for the mom who stays at home for however long it takes time off, like there's no glory in that. There's no thank you, and there's no, like, they don't get any sort of medal. And so, I mean, and I have to admit, like, it's been hard balancing everything. And even today, you know, we're like on West Coast time, so we woke up at like 11, and then trying to time out like how to feed her before I got here it's stressful. Yeah. So,
and yet nobody has ever said to a man, how do you balance career and family?
Totally.
Because we just don't.
Because you just ignore the family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And still give ourselves credit for being a good dad. Like, we actually said, I'm a great dad. I took him to the zoo last year.
Yeah.
I don't even know. The most of my memories of my dad really are vacations and not a lot of at-home stuff, because you know, he was a busy guy, he was doing stuff, but I'm like, the other day I was thinking, did my dad live in Canada? I remember fishing with him there. But
then like people are like, oh my God, he took you fishing.
Yes,
what a
he's
great dad.
Yes.
Oh my God. And it's like, you know, people now are like, I can't believe that your husband changes diapers. What a doting modern father. I was doing skin-on-skin contact with my baby girl the other day because, you know, to bond with her. She shit on my chest. Where's my trophy?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And you know what's funny? Just a little before that, Norton would have done the same thing for you. So.
He would have paid me good money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And still would. Don't think that that's off the table.
Now that I have a baby, that would make it more hot for him. And that there's like milk in these titties, he'd be like, can't wait to shit on those milk titties.
But it is true that a lot of people, does stand-up comedy becomes an all-encompassing 24-hour-a-day job for them. You know, when you think of the amount of time people are on social media or writing material, traveling, going
so
to
I cut out the social media part.
Yeah.
Like, if people will notice, I'm very much not active on social media. Because I don't want to turn into, I never was. I'm kind of an old-fashioned girl in that way. I'm 34, so it's like I kind of miss that whole thing a little bit. And then also, it's a huge waste of time for me to like entertain all these people for free.
Yeah.
You know? And then I'm like, I'd rather focus my energy on like jokes that people will pay to see. And also like, I don't want to turn into some asshole, you know, in front of my husband and just like checking my @mentions to see what Questlove is saying about me, you know, all the time. Like, that's no way to live. Like, I am kind of into like new agey self-help stuff, and I mean the through line of all of that is the most happy people live in the present moment,
right?
And social media is nothing but living in the past and the future, and just like sucks you away from the present. And so I mean, so I think cutting that part out is huge. And I mean, I don't want to be famous and successful because I have 1 million Snapchat followers. You know, I want to do well like the old-fashioned way because I had a special that was great and people want to see it, and then they like what happens live, and then they want to see more, and from stand-up, which is why I got into it in the first place, you know?
Yeah. But stand-up is always going to be the number one place because
number one place, yeah. I mean, I do other stuff, which I'm, you know, like I'm going back to Fresh Off the Boat part-time. And I always viewed that writing job as kind of like a high-paid internship, you know, because I wanted to learn how to write a script and write for TV and how to show run, which has been a great place to do that. But I've completely fallen in love with the staff, and I love them so much. But after this job, I'll probably never staff on another person's show again. It's not what I set out to do, especially now that, you know, hopefully we'll see how it keeps going. I can sell tickets. I would much rather, you know, try to go on the road twice a month. The whole point was hopefully like I would now can do like theaters, you know, and then I can just be gone for one night away from my daughter instead of like sometimes I would do 5 nights away.
Yeah.
In a horrible place in America. Yeah.
Yeah. People who had no idea where you are, you show
They
up.
don't know who I am. And then the food in some of these towns in America, like their idea of like a salad is like a piece of iceberg lettuce with like a piece of Spam on it. And I just like, you know, that's another reason why I think a lot of women don't do comedies, because it's because of like the diet thing, just like going on the road.
Yeah.
And I can't eat a Twinkie at a gas station,
Yeah.
you know, but a lot of men can do that. And so I couldn't, it's really hard for me to go on the road and eat all this shitty food in America.
Yeah, it is true. A guy will be happy with a beer and a salt lick. There's it doesn't matter where. And they're like, this place is open. Let's go in and eat. And you're like, it's a bowling alley.
Yeah.
Why are you going in there?
Yeah, and it's like a fried shoe that they're eating. But they're like, yummy shoe. There's hot chicks there.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was already, you know, the idea of doing comedy. Even though you love it, there's so many things that come. I don't think most people realize how many years it gets to do your special. I just did one of these with Big J. Okerson.
Right.
19 years.
Yeah.
19 years to get from the first time he was on his stage to his special.
Right.
And I watched it. Quite frankly, I don't think he's ready yet. I think I was like, you might have done this 5 years too early. But there's no other job. I mean, you could go out and operate on brains after 8 years, you know, but like, how many years have you been doing this?
11.
11 years.
Yeah. So it's funny because, you know, people like you guys or, you know, other people now who've come upon me think like, oh my God, she came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But other comics, you know, they've seen me. I've been doing like little shitty shows for like 10 years. Yeah. And it takes that long.
Now, you did New York for a while as well, too, right?
Yeah.
How long were you in New York?
2 or 3 years.
2 or 3
I would have
years.
stayed there forever.
Uh-huh.
But then all the Jewish people who became in charge of my life were like, you need to move to LA and make us money on TV.
Yeah.
So then I did what Josh and Avi said.
Yeah.
And moved there.
But these are people, did they find you in the clubs, or were you doing something?
The Jewish people?
Yeah, the Jewish people.
Yeah, they found me in the clubs in New York.
You're doing a club, and they come in and watch. They walk over and say, hey, there's something here.
Yeah.
Let's take this next level.
Yeah. And and some of the jokes I did in the special are like 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's like I don't talk about being pregnant until 45 minutes in, because so much of the library of jokes I had built up were from like the past 11 years. I mean, like I haven't porked a skater in like 9 years, So it's like that joke is very, very old.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of people, it's like she came out of nowhere. But, for me, I'm like, I've been doing this for a long time. And I was just waiting for, the perfect time to do it, because I think there is such a thing as doing a special too early, right? Like you might think, just when you think you have 30 minutes of great material, you'll look back on it 2 years later and be like, oh, I actually had 5 minutes. Like right now, I just went up last night and did those 2 shows, and I did 45 minutes. And I know deep down inside, because I've been doing this for so long, that if I do a special, for my next special, probably only like 10 minutes of that will make it in, because with the special, even though jokes are good, you really have to cut the cream off the top, like you have to let go of stuff. And that's how it is with TV writing too. And I learned a lot of that from TV writing. You got to say goodbye to so much stuff that is good, but you better hold on to the stuff that is great.
Right.
If you want to really make something special.
Well, that's the thing about TV writing, that some people will think that the alt comedies are, somehow superior to network comedies. But those network comedies are just joke. I mean, it's just because it's not to your taste doesn't mean it's even slightly easy to write for Modern Family or Big Bang Theory. Those things are some of the funniest people writing as hard as they can all the time.
Yeah, and I just I always love that density, and like when you're like, I watch I love 30 Rock, and that was like so many jokes per minute. I just love things that are stacked, because then when you go watch it, or like with stand-up, like when I see Attell, he's like one of my favorite comics. It's just like da 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 da, and it's like you kind of have this like physical experience where you're not thinking very much, and you're just straight up laughing, and that's what I always strive to go for, as many laughs per minute.
Well, Attell is a great example, and I ended up talking about him a lot. Matter of fact, when you did his underground show, it's one of the first times I'm like, for me, it's when Attell would pick any of those younger comics, it was always, this thing of he knows exactly what he's talking about when it comes to this. But he's a guy that you don't know when he's writing or when it's off the top of his head.
Right.
It's so natural.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many people went to see Dave Attell, young comedians, and just said, no, I quit. I'm not going to ever get to that point.
Yeah, because it's like it's so well crafted, and he doesn't waste any words. And I learned a lot from him about that, and I would see him in New York when I was living there at the Cellar, like just shift words with every passing set, and what a difference it would make.
Wow.
Yeah, and his economy of language is just incredible, So for me now, when I'm picking out how to phrase a joke, sometimes if it's down to 2 options, I will count the syllables in the sentence and pick the one that has less syllables if they're kind of on equal footing.
Right.
Just so that I can get to the laugh faster.
And that's going through your head the whole time that you're working? Are you thinking on that kind of math?
Yeah,
because
I'm so Asian. But I'm really bad at math.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how quick you can step in a hole? You just... is that the end of my career? Did I just say something wrong?
It's so funny. I'm not even thinking about... it's like just all become... it's all become like instinct now.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Because I've been doing it for so long. So.
But it is like a musician thinks on that same kind of level. Like they're thinking in terms of notes, you're thinking in terms of beats.
Yeah.
When you're on stage.
Yeah. And then I go up with, so my process is I usually go up to like a shitty show with a dictaphone, and I'll have like a topic I want to talk about, like, breastfeeding now, right? And so I'll just go off and I'll talk about whatever comes out. This is for like the first fresh run, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll record it. The next day I'll listen back. And if there were any like nuggets in there that seemed like good jumping off points, then I will write those down. And then I'll go up and go off from those like vague jumping points about breastfeeding. And then hopefully if I got some jokes, then it was recorded, and then they'll be transcribed. And then I'll just keep refining it and refining it and refining it.
Even when it works sometimes, even when it's working and you feel like, okay, this bit's great, it still can be something else.
Yeah.
Pop in there and change it.
That's why I can't watch. I will probably never watch my special again. The last time I watched it was in November, was when I was in the editing room for it. And I probably won't watch it ever again until maybe my daughter wants to watch it or something.
And make her a little older.
Make her a little older. Yeah, I will. So, because it'll be so painful for me, because I'll just be like, oh my God, I could have done this better and this better. It was hard for me to even put all of that away, knowing that it could have, if I had waited maybe even 2 more months, it probably would have been so much better. But because of the baby, I was like, I got to do it now.
Yeah, right.
Like my doctor literally told me, you cannot travel anymore. And I was like, that was the day before my special. And I was like, I have to travel one more place. She was like, you can't. And I was like, I have to.
Yeah. I'm wondering, do you think Carlin and Pryor felt the same way about their specials? Do you think that they thought to themselves, oh, I can't believe I did that shit? It's hard for us to believe, but I'm sure that it kind of must have felt the same way.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I'm telling you now, and I know that there's no sense for you to go back and watch it, and there's, it doesn't, it's not going to work for you. But this thing is so fucking good. It is really as good as any of the specials all time. It could be put in with that league. And that's the thing that blew me away. And I do think that there was a certain amount of just perfect timing that took place from that, how long you've been doing this, where your material was, and then the fact of what was going on with being pregnant, and that we had never really seen anyone do that before.
Yeah, I forget that it was because I never videotaped myself at all. Like I said, I used like a dictaphone, so I never saw what it looked like for me to have that belly and be like, doing stripper moves on the stage.
It's insane.
Yeah,
it's insane.
And I guess it is insane. And the thing is, I think for people who haven't seen the special, they're like, oh, is she getting attention because she was pregnant and because she's Asian and she's a woman? And it's like, yes, like I was all those I was, and I still am all those things except for pregnant. But it's like, you can't, stand-up comedy, you can't just like be a pregnant Asian woman and succeed. Sure. You have to deliver. And the thing is that to deliver, like, you have had to have done stand-up comedy for a long time. There's really just no way around it, because I think in order to like master the form, and also you have to have gone through some like emotional lows.
Sure.
Too. I don't really know why, but I just think to be like more human and to identify with people and just to connect with people. And so for like a lot of young comics, it doesn't interest me to, I love watching them doing like a 6-minute set or something, but I can't watch, like, there's no way I'm going to want to watch a 25-year-old for an hour do stand up. If they like have a guitar or something, that might be like a different thing, but like just a straight up stand up for 25 minutes who's for 60 Minutes who's like 25, that's because maybe they haven't paid a bill yet,
right?
You know, and maybe like someone in their family hasn't died yet, maybe like, and that to me, just like when you see those veterans, that like that honesty and that humanness, just like that oozes through, is something that I think enough people don't talk about and give credit to.
Yeah, it is one of the art forms that appreciates flaws and scars, and you know, the fact that you drag yourself out there and do this despite the fact that all these things have happened. But when you were even saying like there's certain things that comics can come through the door with, and it's so great, but then you can't stay in that spot. Like Kinnison came up, talked about drugs, it was hilarious, but then he stayed there a little too long,
right?
You know, and you're like, ugh, dude, change. Yeah, you know, we're really always asking our comedians to grow.
Yeah, and so I mean, that's the thing, is that, you know, a lot of so like I said, what's interesting now is going up on stage and having people already kind of be on board, is that like I think when people get famous, when they do stand up, they get kind of lazy,
right?
You know, and they get kind of scared to take risks again, because it's like, but it's like you were so fearless those first couple of years when you would bomb and nobody knew who you were and you did shows for no money. Like, how come? But they can't go back.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like rappers. You know, it's like rappers.
Yeah.
They just stop rapping after a while. Like people who are under 20 would be hard pressed to believe that LL Cool J was once a rapper and not the host of a Spike TV song battle show.
Yeah.
Ice-T was a rapper. Will Smith was a rapper. But like Ice Cube was a rapper. They all stopped rapping because eventually they stop having things to say, I guess. And then there's only so many like aspirational albums they can do where they're like, I'm rich, I have so much money, and like my dick gets sucked every night. And then people are like, yay for you. And then everyone's like, I don't relate to you at all anymore. So with stand-up, like I think it's just, as long as you're honest and you have a unique point of view and a hard work ethic, you should have no problem evolving. But I think like once you get, you know, money and things change in your life, your stand-up should change with it too, and you should talk about it and not ignore the fact that, you know.
Well, you know, I'd heard Chris Rock talk about this before, like once you get the big house, it's hard to leave at night and go and do 3 sets, and one of them, because you're just dropping in, only has 15 people and they're drunk. I mean, it's a tough gym to work out at.
Totally.
But you know, Ice Cube, to go from the guy who was going to kill all of us white people, and he explained it to us, and now you see him in a movie and he's like, you kids be quiet in the back. Right. And I'm like, this is amazing. The fact that he pulled that off is just amazing. And I'm like, was the first guy not real, or is he just now going, go ahead, buy into it?
Yeah. Next, in 10 years, he's going to be like, I'm Banksy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the greatest ever? It's Ice Cube.
He might be. Yeah.
You got me. It's Ice Cube. But there is, you know, luckily, I think for comedians, we don't expect them to sell cologne so early into their career. But, you know, you look at Amy Schumer, and I sat down and had this conversation with, I guess it's just a couple years ago, she was getting the Comedy Central show. She was like, well, if this doesn't work, I'm in the clubs and I'm happy. And now she is that kind of famous.
She's that kind of that your mom knows who she is.
Your mom knows who she is, and then has an opinion about what she's wearing or who she's dating. You know, stuff that has nothing to do with comedy anymore.
Totally. And I think that happens more to, I mean, she's kind of like the first woman, actually. I feel like that's all.
Well, you get back to Joan Rivers if you wanted to be the person to kind of cross back then, but lately, you know, and Roseanne after that, but
no one gave a about who Roseanne was dating, though,
well,
right? Or I don't remember what she was wearing.
The Tom Arnold shit with her was
that's true. That was thrilling.
It was big excitement.
That was excitement. Yeah.
When
even as a kid, I was like, what's going on with Roseanne and Tom?
Yeah. When she started to talk about Tom's little dick. And then Tom Arnold came back with, hey, if you drop a 747 in the Grand Canyon, it looks small. I'm like, These are 24-hour entertainers. They want to keep us going. But that kind of thing, I don't know. Do you want to have that kind of fame when you look at what Amy is going through? And
I love Amy, and she handles all of that stuff so well. And I could never.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be super famous. I just wanted more money for less effort. And free shoes. Sephora, free makeup, I just want to, I don't know, it's been really surreal for me to like get recognized in places, and it's fun, but I think there is like a scary, uncomfortable side to being famous. People like, when people comment on like Amy's body and stuff, like that's why I'm not on social media, because I'm not crazy. I don't like that part. I mean, I guess who does? Mm-hmm. But like I have much less of a tolerance for all of that. So no, I mean, that's why I didn't hire a publicist, and I don't know if I ever will, because I really, don't want to do more work outside of stand-up to try to get more famous.
But the strange thing too, the way you're doing it with Netflix, is you never know how many people have seen this. You never know how many eyeballs. And I remember Tom Segura jumped in with them a couple years ago, and the same thing happened, that he just went out and suddenly it didn't feel any different, but 4 or 5 months later he said there was just suddenly people there that weren't there before.
Yeah, so I won't know.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, now from just going out and doing this first gig that you're selling out in advance, and it's hard to believe, but that's never happened before this special.
It happened in San Francisco at certain points, and then in New York, actually, too, when I was living there for a while, but nowhere like in a city where I have not been living in.
Right.
Because I guess what happened in San Francisco was that people had been seeing me, and then once they heard I was headlining or something and doing an hour, then they would be like, okay, great, we're going to go pay to see her.
And bring their friends.
Yeah, and that's the same thing in New York happened too. And then it hasn't happened. It maybe happened like once in LA, but yeah, nowhere in a city where I haven't lived in. And
now, you talk about your husband too, and he's non-show business, right?
No,
Nothing.
And so this whole thing is very surreal for him too, because he's a really private person, and so he didn't ask for all of this like attention, and there's this thing too, I think, where, and like I get concerned too about my marriage, because I feel like when men get successful, like their wives are so happy to just luxuriate in all the benefits, like the night nanny, the cars, the nice clothes, and just like the whole new lifestyle. They're just like, yeah, I'm so happy about this and for you. And then there is this weird nervousness I have about getting too successful and it making my husband uncomfortable, even though he's so supportive and so happy for me. Because I think that I guess typically men tend to be a little bit more uncomfortable when their wife gets successful and famous.
We're like we said, we're less trained in that. Like the way Nancy Reagan would look at Ronald Reagan when he talked, like she was looking at Jesus,
right. Yeah.
And that's a performance. That's something you learn how to do because other people go, is she taking this too? Okay.
Right.
But it's very hard for a man to turn around and do that,
Yeah, exactly. Because I think in that example, then all these women get on board and are like, oh yeah, he's Jesus. And then all these men get on board too, right? Because they're like, I want to be aspirational, like I want to be a hero like him too. And then if like a husband is looking at his wife in that way, everyone's like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Why don't you like, like, why are you looking at her like that? Like, you can't, for like a woman, it's weird to be married to like, in that paradigm, like a fan,
right?
But for a man, it's not unusual to be married to a fan. But like my husband has come to like, when at Baby Cobra, that was maybe like the 6th performance he'd ever seen me do live, and I don't think he even when I did the Tonight Show, he definitely didn't come out to that. I don't even know if he watched it ever. But like I'll see these other male stand-up comics, and they'll bring their girlfriends to like this shitty bar show where you get paid in like a grilled cheese sandwich. And I'm like, you're gonna burn her out, bro. Like, why do you keep bringing her to all these shitty shits? And the girlfriend's setting up the video camera in the back to tape him, and I'm like, what a miserable life for that woman. But it's like, it's just kind of accepted that that's okay. But if like a man were doing that, like all the male comes to be like, what the fuck is wrong with your boyfriend, Allie? You know?
You saying that, I guarantee you it's never even dawned on one of those guys that,
Never.
hey, this is great. She gets to see the show.
I spent time with her. Yeah. Totally.
Then they could talk about her on the set on the way home. What did you think worked?
Yeah.
You think I need to change it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you separate that from your relationship and your family life, right? You don't sit around at home and go over those kind of business decisions or artistic decisions.
Sometimes I'll ask him stuff, and you know, my husband's really funny. I mean, he's like, it's crazy because he only acts that way around me, and I'm around a lot of funny dudes. He's probably one of the funniest dudes I've ever met, and I think that's why I married him. It's like in True Blood, how like Sookie couldn't, like with that vampire she was into, like she could hear everybody's thoughts, but she couldn't hear that vampire's thoughts. Right. And so like he's like the vampire I can't hear, but he's the guy who makes me laugh is what I'm trying to say. So basically, so it's like really special, but then he's not funny to like anybody else. Right. But he's really smart too. And he's so articulate, and he has incredible economy of language. So he'll come up with like these really interesting ideas that he'll put together in like a nice package, and he'll tell me about that are, that'll be like a very interesting comment on what's going on in society or whatever. And that's had a big influence on me and my comedy because, just because of the way the way he speaks and talks about things.
Well, when you were bringing it up about the two of you and you're going back to your ethnic things, I had never heard the jungle Asian, fancy Asian thing. Yeah. And I immediately thought when Spike Lee did School Days and he was explaining how black people divide themselves. Oh, yes, and I was like, I didn't know this. I was doing the same exact thing. I did not know.
Oh, yeah.
That was...
But Asian people were like, we know! And they're like, I mean, and it's so sweet because I forget that, that people haven't made that distinction, and it's something that is so prevalent in amongst Asian Americans. But it's like, but I feel like a lot of Latino people can identify with it too, because it's like, if you confuse a Dominican person with a Cuban person, they're gonna stab you, But like to everybody else, you're like, you're island Latino, or like, what's the difference, Right. So.
We just go Hispanic, even though we're talking about half of the world. Right. Hispanic. Then the other half, you're all Asians. Right. Enjoy yourselves.
So.
But this is a kind of interesting, amazing thing. But when you were talking about, you're into a lot of self-help stuff. Yes. And you were in the special, you brought up you wanted to get a doula. You wanted a white...
Hippie witch.
Yes. And I'm literally, my chick is a doula, and she is a white hippie witch.
Hilarious. Oh, my God. Is her name Destiny?
No. Well, just one nickname, but that has nothing to do with this. But yeah, but I've always found out that people that are into kind of self-help stuff need help. Well, you know what I mean? Like, you never run into people like, hey, I'm totally chill, and these are all my books. Just sitting here about managing my life. Right. Yeah. But that's something you have to work on quite a bit, I imagine, right?
Like I love my family, but my family is nutty. And there was like I grew up around a lot of like really eccentric personalities, a lot of like yelling in my house growing up, and it was awesome, and my family's really funny, but and then just like being like a woman, having to function in stand-up comedy too, it's like there's yeah, and but also wanting to be like a good mom and everything. It's like, yeah, I need help.
Well, you even brought up the, being a woman in comedy. Men also don't have to think about, I'm going to jump on the subway at 1:30 and
I mean, I think that's another
yeah.
reason why I think a lot of, because I think women in general are way funnier than men, in my opinion. I hang out with mostly women off stage, and they think a lot of them don't choose to do it for a living because it's what woman wants to like go out at 1:30. It's like it's a safety thing. Like they don't want to go out and do these shitty shows that you have to do.
Yeah.
You have to,
Well, I think that women have always been funny writers, in the history of, you read a book that's funny, it's women. But the fact that stand-up, to me, is almost based on hanging on a street corner. There's a thing.
It's your body.
Yeah, it's an alpha dog thing.
Yeah.
To begin with.
And it's literally you have to take your body out there. Like people are shocked that there's tons of all these funny women on Twitter and stuff.
Right.
And it's like those women have always been funny. But like now that's their platform, but they can do it from their house.
Yeah.
With like a nice toilet. They don't have to go in that shitty bar toilet that has like layers and layers of like ghost jizz in it, So it's like
the fact that it's ghost jizz.
It might be appealing.
Yeah, it makes it so much worse.
Yeah, like I mean, I've stayed in these comedy condos.
Oh.
Disgusting, and they're like and they make it sound appealing. Like you don't have to stay at a hotel; you can stay at the comedy condo. Great, so I can sleep on like a graveyard of Patrice O'Neal's sperm.
Yes. Louis did that funny one when Florentine was his roommate, and Florentine was just partying through the entire day. And there is a gigantic, particularly like you said, once you get out of your 20s, no one wants to drink like that every night. No one thinks, we get to drink and eat fried food for free. This is great.
Yeah, exactly. And like women never like doing that in the first place for the most part. You know, and I consider myself kind of a tomboy, and it's like I never ever like that stuff.
Yeah.
So
are you goal oriented, or are you just gonna let this, like, as you say, stay in the moment and just happen as it goes along?
I'm gonna keep doing stand up, and then eventually I would like to have my own show. Yeah, I would like to have a show like Louis. I wouldn't probably play a stand-up, and then I would probably like later on like to do a show based on my childhood, sort of like a Wonder Years, Everybody Hates Chris kind of thing.
But that'll be much sadder and one that we cry and watch.
Yeah.
All right, some of these folks wanted to ask you some questions before we wrap up.
Okay, so real quick, you were saying for your special, you didn't want to just rattle off your biggest jokes. You want to tell a story. How did you transition to just telling a story, getting ready for that?
Well, I think it's because instinctually I knew that I wanted to tell a story. Then once I put that intention out there and I started practicing doing the hour when I went on the road, I just kept on restructuring it every night and then selecting the stuff that would fit into the story. So there's some, jokes I don't even remember anymore that I put in the trash, or maybe I'll save them for later, that just did not fit within the storyline. So,
but and again, I don't think people realizes how long that takes. That you have this act, but is the act a special? No, now I got to turn around and form this thing that makes sense as a single piece. And how long were you talking before you decided, I'm going to do the special, until, okay, we're going to shoot the special? How long does that take place?
I decided that I was going to shoot the special in my first trimester.
Really?
Yeah, I think when I was 14 weeks pregnant, and then from then, and then it was 7.5 months. So,
boy, another amazing thing to me is that you were so pregnant in it, and then talking about miscarriage in a way that you did not lose where you were going with this. I thought it was so artfully done, but you brought up that this is something people never talk about. It's much more common than we allow ourselves to talk about.
Right, and so that the thing is that like, you know, women had I had heard that statistic after I had it, like, oh, it's so common. And it's one thing to hear the statistic and hear that it's very common, and it's another thing to place a face to that statistic, and a face that you know, a face that's friendly and warm or whatever, and be like, oh, like, and it helped me so much when other women came out of the woodwork and told me that they had a miscarriage, because there's this guilt that a lot of women feel, and like this shame, because you know, some women had not some women, but like some people, they didn't mean to be this insensitive, but they asked me like, oh, what happened? Like, is there something you could have done? Did the doctor say why, what caused it? And it's like, there's no cause. They just happen. And one of the first thoughts I had when I had the miscarriage was like, oh my God, I really don't want my husband's parents to know, because I don't want them to think that he had married a bad seed, which is so weird, you know? But I think that's how a lot of women feel, you know, and like feeling envy of other women who get pregnant really fast is natural too. And there's like, but you know, all this stuff, people, they don't talk about it. It's because it's really personal, you know. It's your body as a woman, and so you don't want there's enough judgment on your body, and judging, you know, like how thin or fat you are is one thing, but to judge like your uterus, your insides is like a whole nother thing, you know, because it just makes you feel like your essence or your soul might be tainted or something you know, so. But then once I like had told other women and they told me that they had one too, I felt so much better. And then I thought, well, if I talk about it, maybe it'll make other women feel better. And there was also humor to be had in it. And, you know, I mean, there's like honesty in that joke too, which I think all good stand-up should come from. I mean, that relief I felt when I found out that it was twins that I had miscarried was real.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like, I wasn't like, you know, doing cartwheels or anything, but but that feeling, I did have some feelings of relief for sure. Yeah.
I thought that was an amazing spot with that, the way that it was just done so artfully. And then another spot that I thought was great is that you brought up with the men now who go, my baby's an asshole, ripping off the old Louis bit, but doing it much worse. Where it's really down to where I see newscasters doing now.
Oh,
you know,
right.
Where it's almost like acceptable for for people who would never have said this before. But I thought of that at the same time, of you just putting that one seed out of the miscarriage in the middle of this hilarious special. Who knows? Yeah. Where people, you know, who knows who could start talking about that now. I think there's sometimes a thing that is so powerful in comedy because it just happens quickly that it can change people's mind without trying to convince them.
You mean bring him down?
You know, I mean, just saying because you didn't bring it up, but if somebody if you think to yourself that something's funny, and that is true, you're probably going to let it stay there in yourself for a while. And I thought that was one of the most amazing parts of a really amazing funny special. Okay, yes, over here.
I'm sorry, this might be absurd, and I probably wasted someone's thought-provoking question, but my question is, do you eat Asian-inspired pastries? Because I brought some for you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Yes, I do.
All right.
It's in D.C.
Oh, thank you so much.
Now, well, here, bring him up, Chris.
I feel like a deity right now.
Yes, people bring you.
This has never happened before. Are you going to kill me after the show, too? Okay, are you going to...
Now, where's the guy with the pork belly pigs? He wants to bring them up. Everyone will bring you. But
how exciting. Thank you.
Now, I know this is news for you, but I always say don't eat food that the fans made.
Yeah.
It's...
I'm putting it out there, so it's like...
Okay, great.
Thank you.
But maybe she said, like, maybe what we've learned from the special is to never underestimate what Asian American women can do. So she might be an assassin. Who knows?
Yes.
No, but thank you very much. I will eat it and might die, and I'll risk that. Yeah.
if this is Ali's last show, this will be really great for me. It'll go viral, and everybody will be talking like, look, moments before she had no idea she was being poisoned. Just a regular day. Because you ever see how people do that? Like if someone dies now, you can just go and see the tweets that they left behind.
Oh, yeah.
That afternoon,
They
and
go
it's
crazy.
so freakish.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true.
And that's why I'm hoping this could really work for me. Eat up. Yes, over here.
You mentioned about Chris Rock helping you through the doing the act Pregnant. Was there ever a time you were going to throw in a towel and another comic helped you not do it?
Well, he helped me that wasn't when I was pregnant. That was before, when I was deciding whether to get married and have kids. But yeah, he helped me a lot. And then let's see, when I wanted to throw in the towel, I never ever wanted to throw in the towel, but there have been so many other stand-up comics who have helped me like tremendously. And the thing is, now, I joke about like Lean In and how that book is thumbs down, but really the truth is that I read that book and it like had a big influence on me.
Yeah.
And one of the things she talks about is like a lot of women have this like tiara syndrome where they'll be like, will you be my mentor? Like, how did you get to where you are? And they just kind of want like a shortcut. And I really wish, and like men will behave like that too,
Sure.
but a lot of young female comics will come up to me and like ask to pick my brain and like they kind of want a shortcut. And it's like, you really just have to do the work, and you have to love stand up, and you have to be funny.
Yeah.
And there's no secret. And so, yeah, I really never, I think, wanted to throw in the towel because I just always loved it so much. Even when I bomb, I still like it. Yeah.
What is interesting to you about bombing? What is it about that?
Because it makes me want to do it more.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me want to get better. Like if I had a good set, it doesn't make me want to improve on the jokes. And the process to me is the most exciting part. Killing is not the most exciting part to me. It's doing that work of like, I know this is funny. My instinct says it's funny. And now like I have to convince them that it's funny.
Yeah.
And that process of getting there, of like reworking the language is so fun to me. And it just, I just think it has to be, you have to really like that process.
Yeah, it is the only art form that gets written in front of an audience.
Yeah.
You won't see any painter going, is this working? Is it too much gold? I can take some of the gold back out of it. So that thing of you get to watch people who are really great. We were talking about Attell, as great as he is, he's going to scrape his knees. It's going to happen. Yeah. He's going to bump his head. It's all part of it. He will think of something and it won't be as funny to the audience as he thought it was. Then he has to figure out how to make that.
It's just so satisfying when you finally found like the gold pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's that, but you knew it would be there all along because you have that confidence in yourself that you can find it. So yeah. But I do think that like there are certain people who, I don't know. There's certain people who've surprised me where I'm like, oh, wow, like you are so funny, and I never thought that. But I do think for some people, I think it is really helpful when they do shift out of stand-up comedy, because there are some people who I think they just never had a unique point of view to begin with. And they shift to like directing or like TV writing or something else. And I think that's like a really smart move.
Well,
too.
a lot of people are in comedy because they like comedy, and other people because they just had this natural strange thing about them, know. All right, let's go over here.
You mentioned female comics might literally like fear for themselves going on stage, putting their body out there, and like as a guy that just did not occur to me. So what other things out there are just things that might not occur to men that female comics encounter?
Questions like that, I would say.
Well, I mean, even for now, now as a mom, it's crazy. So concerned about being, raped is always crazy. I mean, men never think about that. I think they're they hope they'll get raped when they go out on the road. But for me now, being a mom and breastfeeding, in between the 2 shows I did, normally I would either just chop it up with the feature, or maybe, back in the day I might have gone out and said hi to some of the people in the audience, or I would listen to the set I did at the earlier show and figure out what I could tweak for the next show. I had to pump my breast milk, and I felt so bad, but I had to tell the feature comic, I got a pump, so please just I don't know you, dude. So please just I just met you. He's very funny.
Yeah.
But I was please, you got to leave the green room. And then I had to bring all of my pumping stuff and get naked and put on this bra that has holes in it to put these funnels in and just and just suck the milk out for 20 minutes. And the whole setup, and then I have to wash all the stuff afterwards. So that's certainly something male comics don't have to deal with.
But it could be the start of the new special. You're just sitting there with breasting out.
Yeah, it's true.
It's so great to have the chance to talk to you about this, and you're just lovely, and you're just funny and wonderful.
Thank you. This was so fun.
And congratulations for everything. Ali Wong, everybody. So wonderful. So great.